So much time has passed since Anne and the Plantars left Newtopia in high spirits. So much has happened. Keeping track of all important events is easier said than done, but worry not if you don't remember every last detail, as this video serves the purpose of getting you back into the matter and ready to enjoy Amphibia Season 3. The Plantars make their way home to Wartwood, and one night, Sprig and Polly secretly decide to take the wheel, resulting in the wildest ride of their lives. Meanwhile, Hop is dreaming of confronting his deepest fears, and Anne is dreaming of a Candyland. Steadily trailing the Plantars is Frobo, that had quietly been following them since they entered an old factory. Finally, the Plantars return home and are warmly welcomed by the villagers, who can't wait to get their presents that Hop and Polly forgot to buy. Their seemingly perfect plan to have an ancient monster eat fake presents gets out of hand, and understandably everyone's upset, but they quickly forgive them because they all missed the Plantars' entertaining presence in the valley. Anne receives a letter from Marcy asking them to prepare to leave for the first temple. So Anne informs Hop to fetch the calamity box from his contacts. Later that night, by sheer accident, Anne catches Hop red-handed digging for the calamity box. He confesses to having hidden the box that is now mysteriously gone. However, he can't finish explaining his action as an outraged Anne runs away from the farm. The next morning, Sprig and Polly discover that the box slipped down an underground tunnel and is currently located in a vortex of mud that swallows the kids. Fortunately, Anne and Hop hear their screams for help. Being forced to work together, they succeed in saving the kids and the box. Hop gathers all his courage to enlighten Anne on how Sprig and Polly's parents were eaten by herons. To this day, he still blames himself for not being there and clarifies that he panicked upon finding out that the calamity box may be dangerous, in fear of losing Sprig, Polly, or Anne. For now, Anne forgives him, and they return to the farm to read the book article together. Then the time has finally come to clear the first temple, with the aim of charging the green gemstone. Since the green gemstone is usually carried by a witty person, the temple's 3 tasks are puzzles that Marcy gets right into, as she has entered her zone, where she gets too absorbed into a task at hand. She easily solves the first 2 problems. However, Anne and Hop are having trouble pretending nothing happened between them. They behave extremely awkwardly and begin arguing until they reach the final task, a flipboard game with a dangerous twist. Sprig, Polly, and Hop take the spots of some game pieces on one team, and strangely, Anne ends up on the other. Marcy takes control of the Plantars team and faces off against the temple team that has the ability to circumvent regular flipboard rules. Due to the temple cheating constantly, Marcy has trouble keeping Hop safe from Anne's piece attacking him, causing them to discuss their feelings. Hop just wants to know how he can fix their relationship. Anne doesn't know and assumes she needs more time to process everything. Marcy is inspired by their heartfelt dialogue and throws the towel to avoid the Plantars getting hurt any further. The temple leads them to an outhouse where a poem that is written on the walls uncovers the temple's true intention was to teach humility. Marcy is allowed to charge the gem. When Andrias receives message of the temple mission's success, he retreats into the castle's basement to notify his master, a gigantic many-eyed beast, that he is making progress undoing the prophecy. Back in Wartwood, Marcy is irritated at the villagers behaving coldly towards her. Impatient as she is, she attempts to speed up the process of being accepted by improving the city. As a result, the city sinks into the underlying swamp, having the opposite effect on Marcy's popularity. Though the Wartwoodians notice the similarity to how Anne was not so long ago and reassure Marcy they'll come to accept her eventually. Polly discovers Frobo in a pile of trash, and the 2 of them indulge in various shenanigans. As was to be expected, people begin to take notice of the strange machine. In the developing fuss, someone accidentally kicks Polly, thereby bringing on Frobo's his rage. He lays waste to the village and only comes to a halt after Polly begs him to. Surprisingly, the robot apologizes to everyone and the Plantars agree to take him in. Using the green gemstone, Marcy, Anne and the Plantars locate the second temple in the amphibian Arctic. However, Valeriana the shop owner greets them and explains that as the last member of an order involved with the calamity box, she would be guiding them to the temple. Anne suspects she is hiding something, given that Valeriana can't seem to keep her eyes off the box. Her suspicions grow stronger due to Valeriana discreetly creating dangerous situations to test Anne's bravery. Eventually, Valeriana announces Anne doesn't meet the temple's criteria and intends to leave, but Anne blocks her way, forcing Valeriana to teleport them to a mysterious place above the clouds. Valeriana seeks to take the box from Anne and nearly falls off the platform in the process. Anne rescues her, hence passes the final task. Valeriana unveils what the temple was all about before charging the stone for Anne. Strangely, the charging takes longer than usually, being reason why the stone remains only halfway charged when Anne storms off, returning to her friends, mistakenly believing they were in danger. While that is happening, Sasha and Grimes solicit the other Toad Lords to lend them strength in their upcoming assault on Newtopia, but the tower captains can't sense any merit in supporting an outlaw and a human. Moreover, they provoke Sasha by delivering the news to her that Marcy and Anne are currently cooperating with Andrias. They are promised the Toad's commitment should they successfully find a legendary Warhammer guarded by a terrible beast. Accompanied by Braddock and Percy, Sasha and Grimes set out to retrieve the hammer. When the Guardian attacks, Braddock and Percy signal that they are too scared to go on. In spite of her promise to consider their feelings, Sasha continues fighting the beast, only scraping victory, having finally awakened a connection to her gemstone. Sasha concurrently celebrates gaining the Toad Army's support and is saddened by the aftermath of her own actions. That is, Braddock and Percy deciding to walk a separate road from now on. Before the Plantars enter the final temple, the viewer is presented with a flashback of Sasha meeting Anne and Marcy for the first time, protecting them from older girls that had been bullying them. The episode then returns to the Plantars having trouble completing even the very first task, when unexpectedly, Sasha and Grimes show up. Sasha declaring she is sorry for the events at Toad Tower isn't quite enough to make the Plantars drop their caution, but Marcy is very excited to see Sasha again and puts her in the picture about recharging the box. They fight their way through to the last room, where they stand off against a golem, struggling to land a finishing blow, and motivates Sasha by admitting she still trusts her, even after their sour reunion. The golem is defeated, the red gemstone recharged. Marcy makes sure they don't open the box before consulting Andrias, and Grime checks whether Sasha remembers that reconciling with Anne is only an act, since she genuinely seemed to be touched. To celebrate Sasha's return, the Plantars invite Sasha and Grime over for dinner. The atmosphere is awkward, and Sasha is particularly ticked off by the fact that Anne and Marcy made fun new memories in Amphibia without her. The situation is broken up when Grimes' chocolate cake explodes and giant hornets attack. With combined effort, the popular Toad delicacy can be overcome and enjoyed after all. The next day, the village of Wartwood is holding a battle of the bands, and Sasha and Marcy intended to perform together, but Sasha leaves them owing to her controlling nature. She spends the rest of the day with Toadie, who actually teaches her valuable life lessons. Eventually, she's led by his words and joins her friend's act last minute. At last, the season 2 finale spills the beans, showing a flashback of Marcy learning of the calamity box back on Earth and purposely getting the girls teleported to Amphibia to avoid having to move to another state. Here in Newtopia, Anne is about to hand over the box to Andrias when Sasha and Grime intercept and force everyone to surrender by threatening to destroy the box. Sasha suggests Anne and Marcy join her in ruling the country, but is struck with Anne's unrestricted anger. In return, Sasha opens the calamity box, intending to separate Anne and the Plantars. Since the box appears to be dysfunctional, they are taken away instead. Following their swift escape, they immediately begin fixing the situation by freeing Andrias, fighting the invading toads, and closing the city gate to cut off reinforcements. Much to Sasha's shock, who discovered Andrias's true desires and tried warning Anne that doesn't trust a single word from Sasha's mouth anymore. To that end, Andrias obtains the box, allowing him to finally put all cards on the table. 1000 years ago, Amphibia was a well-developed society, depending on the box's magic, before Andrias's friends turned their backs on him and stole it. Having regained possession of the box today, he plans on invading other worlds, including Earth, like his ancestors did. And for that reason, he won't be sending the girls home. Additionally, he forces Marcy to admit she brought them to Amphibia and that she promised the box to Andrias in return for being allowed to bring Anne and Sasha along on what she believed to be fun adventures for all time. The protagonists are heartbroken, but gather their strength to face Andrias and his reawakened robot army. Unfortunately, Andrias gets a hold of Sprig and pushes him out of a window, causing Anne to unlock overwhelming powers due to her still being connected to the blue gem. While she's going berserk, Marcy saves Sprig and reunites him with Anne before opening a portal to Earth behind Andrias' back. Anne and the Plantars jump through the portal and witness Marcy being stabbed by Andrias as the portal closes again. The calamity box remains in Amphibia, while Anne and the Plantars find themselves in Los Angeles. For breakdowns of all upcoming Amphibia episodes, subscribe to Frogtoons. See you next time.